Good afternoon, everybody. We are back. It is the Right Side of Campus podcast. We're live on a Friday, December 22nd, 2017, in the flesh here, just before Christmas. It's Christmas weekend. We're excited here, but we got stuff to do here. We got to get some winners out of the way before Santa comes down the chimney. It's time to talk Friday college hoops, and welcome everyone in today. An interesting day to say the least. We have some bowl game stuff on. You have some college hoops, got some soccer, all sorts of stuff to wet your whistle today. A big college hoops card. And, I thought to myself, I wanted to get this guy on. I've been waiting to chat with him, get him on the air. He comes from Las Vegas, Nevada. His name's Greg Peterson. He comes from VSIN, the Vegas Stats and Information Network. They do a great job out there. Brent and Matt Humans and Gil and Paul Howard and all those guys. He's kind of behind the scenes, but he's on there as well. He's a college basketball analyst, one of the smartest guys I've ever talked to, and one of the only people I respect in this business when it comes to college hoops. There's a difference between knowing about college and really knowing about college. He's Greg Peterson. We welcome him in. Greg, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we chat all the time, you and I, on Twitter and back and forth, and I've been wanting to get you in here on the show. And, we picked up plenty of games here that we're going to go over. Obviously, we'll, get those out of the way, then we'll answer some questions. But how you been doing in college basketball this year? How's everything been going overall?
Pretty good. I mean, obviously, you're going to have your up days and your down days, but overall, pretty good. I've been hitting right around 61, 62% the past couple of weeks, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Good. Yeah, that's all that matters, man. Great stuff. I am off a loss last night, my first loss of the week, 3-1 on the week. Oregon State, I look back on the play, and it was pretty irritating because I had decided between that and Texas Arlington, and I decided to go with Oregon State. But it was, it's one of those things where the MAC strikes again. I mean, this conference is just inept as far as putting information out. I mean, you hear information that people aren't playing, and then all of a sudden, right before the game, they're in the lineup. They did it today in football. Ohio did it. This conference is just inept with putting out any solid information. But we take it on the chin. It is what it is. 58-33 on the season, up 21.6 units. We'll take it. We'll take it in the gut. We'll come out Friday here and try to give you a winner. Greg sent me 4 games. I got a couple games, but again, the play of the day is where we're going to get started here. And I want to welcome all the people. I'm not going to name everyone. We always get plenty of people in here. Welcome in, share the show, like it, comment, tell me you don't like me. I don't give a shit what you do. Just, support the show, retweet it, do that sort of thing tonight. Greg, let's get going here. What do you think? You ready to go? Lot to do here.
You bet I am.
All right, let's start it out. I'm going to go to the play of the day. Pittsburgh hosting Towson State University. I got this one at 3.5. It's up to 4.5. And if you didn't follow it at that point, I'm sorry to say, but you're missing the boat. When I send these plays out, it's important you get on them. They move throughout the day. If you expect the line to just stay where it is all day, you're in the wrong business. I'm going to go Towson -3 and a hook. It is on the road, but you look at Towson State here, awful loss to Oakland. They didn't play well in that game, really had trouble in the defensive end, and really surprising for a Pat Scarry team that's usually very good defensively. They rebound well. Look, Oakland just shot lights out in that game. Nunn was on fire. That's what happens when you face Oakland sometimes. Sometimes it's like a landslide coming at you. But, you look at this game, lot to like about Towson. Great rebounding team always. Have done a nice job defensively all year, giving up just 64.5 a game. And the big news out of Pittsburgh is the fact that I know Greg says that he thinks they're the second worst team in the Power 5, and I can't disagree with that. I mean, Cal's obviously a little bit worse, but it's been a really ugly season for Pittsburgh. I'll forever wonder why Kevin Stallings took this job. I don't understand it. Doesn't make any sense to me. They don't get the same recruits like they once did when Jamie Dixon was there. They're not being able to recruit New Jersey and New York and Philadelphia like they were. And they're without their best player right now, Ryan Luther. 13-10, him being out of the game really hurts. I just don't see a feasible situation that, especially off a loss, Towson to me is the play here. I think it's the best play on the board. And at that number, I'm all over it. Again, if you didn't get it, you're going to have to lay 4.5. But at 3.5, I'm all over it. Greg, you have anything to say on this game?
Yeah, I think that even at 4.5, I would definitely take Towson because I mean they had a bad performance against Oakland, but I think Oakland's a team that's going to win the Horizon League. And when you take a look at Pitt, they've already lost, I believe, to Montana State. They had a close call against UC Santa Barbara. I know that they played West Virginia tough, but that's one of those rivalry games where just about anything can happen. I mean, Pitt night in and night out has not been a good team. And I actually used to cover Vanderbilt a couple years ago, back when Kevin Stallings was a coach there. Just completely befuddled me that he took this job. So I'm right there with you. I would take Towson minus the 3.5 that you got, or minus 4.5 that it's at right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Towson. I mean, they're going to have to make some free throws in this game, and that's again, they're shooting at about 70%. They're a way better rebounding team. They have about a 6 or 7 rebound advantage here. They've done a great job, like I said, all year. Did have that little hiccup against Oakland, but overall, they're a very good defensive team. Should be able to really they're the better team here, and that's really my side in this game. Want to shout out a couple listeners. Caleb, welcome in, man, as always. Anthony Greer, welcome in. Mr. Gogster, all the guys out there, we appreciate it. Man, Central Michigan is so shit. Yeah, well, they're not playing well right now, and the bowl games have been bad in general. An ugly group of bowl games so far. Greg, you're at the VSIN studios. You're not there today, but how's the bowl action been? Has there been a lot of action there? These bowls getting people to make some bets or what?
Yeah, there's been a lot of action. I mean, the Gasparilla Bowl yesterday was actually quite a fun one. And then a couple nights ago, you had Florida Atlantic versus Akron. Florida Atlantic with Lane Kiffin just running up the score on Akron. Got a lot of people going. So there has been a lot of action on these bowl games, and a lot of people are really betting them, and they seem to be getting the right side, I would say. The public doing a very good job of handicapping these games.
Sure. I do think today, though, they're having a little trouble. I saw a lot of people on UAB. Central Michigan seem to be a trendy pick. It'll be interesting to see how they end up doing. But let's chat with you, Greg, a little. See what you're looking at today. Obviously, the play of the day I've already given out, but I'm not saying I won't be interested. You sent me a list. I definitely have some interest in some of the games. Washington, Montana is actually, I'm sorry, that's one of my games. Get into one of your games, Greg. Take the wheel here. What do you got?
One of my games is actually Central Michigan. Fortunately, not the football team, so don't worry. I was not laying the points on that one, but we're going to go Central Michigan versus SIU Edwardsville. Central Michigan has actually been a very surprising team. This is a team that lost Marcus Keene and company. Marcus Keene, you may remember, averaged 30 points per game last year for Central Michigan. And Keno Davis is actually doing a very good job with this team. They're above 500. They look like they're going to be a force out there in the MAC. And they're playing an SIU Edwardsville team that, let's face it, is completely awful. I'll be surprised if SIU Edwardsville gets more than eight wins this year. And they won like 7 or 8 games last year. This is a team that year in and year out is a bet against. And this number actually opened up right around 11. It's right now down to 10 in most spots. I would say Central Michigan should be able to get a 15-plus point win here. I think that's a very good play.
Yeah, Edwardsville's had a major issue this year stopping anyone. I mean, that's always been an issue for this group, and it continues to be an issue for this group. They're 1-7 against the spread. I actually like this play a lot. I've made the case that I think that and I think a lot of people, if you watch this Chippewa team, last year they had a lot of problems just with defending. I mean, Braylon Rayson and Keene took most of the shots. It was just isolation, basically, and them do their thing and hope to get an offensive rebound or a run out or something. And this team is a lot better defensively than they were last year. They've been very efficient offensively, and Edwardsville is just a mess. I mean, you look at their wins this year. I mean, Stetson, IUPUI, South Alabama, and Chicago State, who, Greg, you think that Chicago State's the worst team in the country. Is that correct?
I think they are the worst team in the country. I mean, when you watch this team, they lost to Purdue something like 110-41. Then they followed that up with a loss to Northwestern, in which they were down 55-8 at the half. This team lost by 30 to Oakland. If I were to make a line between the best team and the worst team in the country, it'd probably be maybe like a Duke or an Arizona State at the top, Chicago State at the bottom, and I would make that a 40-point spread.
Yeah, no, Chicago State is we saw it against Northwestern. I mean, they just don't belong on the court with really anyone. I've said to you, I think some of their SWAC teams are pretty bad, but at least you get effort out of them a lot of the time. Looks like Chicago State really doesn't even care. I mean, their coach just plays whoever he wants, regardless of how good they are. It's just very odd. And look, SIU Edwardsville's not too far off. I mean, they're bottom 20 in the country probably. And Central Michigan at home here really shouldn't have any problem in this game. I look at this. I fuck 15 points. I think they win by 20. This could be an absolute blowout. I mean, all their games this year, for the most part, have been blowouts against higher-end competition. I agree with that play a lot. Anthony Greer, I love this guy, big man. He already has that play. Yes, Greg knows his stuff. Good call, Anthony. Let's look at one of this game here. Texas and
Alabama.
Alabama's is an interesting game. I've made the comment before. I really like Alabama, particularly at home. I'm either a bet on team, and I've been asked before, Greg, about do I think Alabama can make a run this year? Of course they can. The problem I have with Alabama is they're not great on the road. That's a concern to me. And I know people will say, well, they'll get it figured out. If you're a bad foul shooting team, normally that doesn't go away, and they have issues from the free throw line. They've lost covers because of it. They've had issues in games because of it. They almost single-handedly didn't cover that Rhode Island game because they couldn't make foul shots. That's a concern for me. But against Texas, I don't think they're going to have a ton of a problem just because Texas right now is really struggling offensively. They're not good in the half court. They're not good really against any defense. They're hurt right now with Andrew Jones out. Eric Davis is injured as well. And I saw Mo Bamba in high school locally here. He's a fantastic player. The concern I have with Mo Bamba, and I think the major concern with him is he's not a strong kid. He can get beaten up on the block. He gets carted around at times. He's a little weak, in my opinion. Against Dante Hall, that is a big concern. Against really every big that anyone plays against Mo Bamba, he's just not as strong as everyone else. He's a big, hulking kid, but he's got to get a little bit stronger. What are your thoughts on Texas and Alabama? I got to say, I like Alabama here, but this free throw shooting is concerning for me.
I played Alabama at -4. I mean, we saw Texas play a 1-point game on their home floor against Tennessee State a couple nights ago. The loss of their three-point shooters is just absolutely mind-blowing, and they didn't have much three-point shooting to start with. This is a Texas team that has a lot down low, but they have nothing else. They have no backcourt to speak of. And you take a look at Bamba, he's a very gifted player. That 7'9" wingspan is incredible, but it just seems like at times he tries to do too much. He steps out for a jumper, and you're just here like, why are you doing that? You could just go down so easily. You're either going to get a basket or you're going to get fouled with a chance to get 2 free throws. So I really do not like Texas in this spot. Alabama has been a little bit hit or miss. They've had their close games against Louisiana Tech, UT Arlington. You mentioned the Rhode Island game, but I certainly think that Alabama -4 is a play here.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with you on that. Like I said, I'm a fan of them at home. They have a great atmosphere there at Coleman Coliseum. One other thing, Greg, real quick, back to Central Michigan, if I can. One thing I really like about them also is it's a 10-point number here. They're going to get to the foul line. You look at CMU, 81% from the free throw line, second in the country. That's huge when you have a big number towards the end of games. If you're going to get to the foul line, can you make those foul shots? Can you make it easier to cover that number? That's another big thing about CMU that I really like. But, yeah, we're in agreement here with Texas. I agree. And Normal Nation, you're totally right. It amazes me that Texas almost beat Duke. I agree totally. They played hard that night, though. Greg, hit us with another pick. What do you got?
All right, I've got a couple here. I think that Middle Tennessee State versus Princeton is going to be an interesting matchup because we're looking at a Princeton team that is coming off a huge win against USC, but USC clearly is not the team that we thought that they were going to be at the beginning of the year and is going through massive injuries. I mean, Jonah Matthews and Benny Boatwright was out of that game. Melton is still under suspension. That's a very unique situation. Meanwhile, Middle Tennessee, they are coming off a loss against Auburn in which they were just completely blown out in the first half. But they actually made a huge run in the second half. I believe that the closing line on that game was either 3.5 or 4, depending on where you look. They lost that game by 5 or 6. So Middle Tennessee, a very good team that blew out Ole Miss earlier this year. They also won at Vanderbilt. This is a very good Middle Tennessee State team. I mean, I was able to get 6.5 with this one. I thought that laying that number was pretty big just because. And you take a look at Princeton, they've had some good performances this year, but then they've really faltered in some situations as well. It's really hard to get a read on Princeton. Meanwhile, I feel like I know what I'm getting with Middle Tennessee. The line is ticked up to 8 to 8.5 in most spots now. If you were able to get the 6.5 with Middle Tennessee, great. I really like it. If you have 8 right now, I'd be a little bit more hesitant. I'd probably look to other plays before it, but if you're really looking for a team to fill out that parlay or something like that, I'd certainly still go Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Middle Tennessee, last year they had a really good team. I got to tell you, Kermit Davis might have a better team than he did last year. Nick King is a fantastic, a big down low. We obviously know the name Giddy Potts. I mean, it seems like Giddy Potts has literally been there for 8 years. It's pretty amazing. Brandon Walters has been fantastic. And I'm a little concerned for Princeton here in the front court. They're not a big team. They're not a team that is going to bully it down low. They're only pulling in about 29 boards a game. But, yeah, I'm not stepping in front of Middle Tennessee. I'm just not. Middle Tennessee did, lose that game against Auburn, but that was in Auburn. Auburn's not a great matchup for Middle Tennessee if you look at some of the schematics there. I agree with you here. I think it's an interesting spot because you're getting Princeton off that long road trip, off of a win. They're riding high. Now you got to host a Friday night game against a good basketball team who's off a loss. It's a fascinating situation. And it's a line I feel that is goading you a little bit into taking Princeton. I mean, why, if you're looking at this line, don't you look at this as a square better and say, wow, Princeton just beat USC. Now they're at home getting 8.5 against or not at home, but I'm sorry. This is
Hawaii. Yep.
Yeah. What am I saying? My fault. That means totally nothing then. These damn holiday tournaments. But either way, they're off that win. They're off the travel. Now you got to host a team, and it's like, wow, they're off a loss. They're going to be ready to go here. I definitely agree with you. You obviously got a better number though, for sure. King Rail, Princeton's going to get abused tonight. Agreed. Greg, I enjoy his analysis. Hope you can have him on more often. Yes, we will, Greg. What do you say? We'll try to get you on as much as we can.
Certainly. Yes.
He does have a job, though, people. He does have to adhere to his VSIN responsibilities. Greg, by the way, I heard you on with Paul Howard and Mitch about a week ago. And, I always really respect people that can literally – off the top of their head do things. I always respect like a freestyle rapper that can literally sit there and just tell you a story without writing anything down. I'm always someone that does that. I don't, I try to keep memory, and I respect people that could do that. I saw you the other day on VSiN, and Paul Howard mentioned that he was very impressed by the fact that you could do that. I don't see many people like that. Very admirable. I like to see that in people.
Thank you. And I'm doing the same thing today. No notes in front of me.
Good. Yeah, me too. Some of it I'm looking up, but most of this is common. So 2 great basketball minds. Happy to have Greg on the show here. Keep the questions coming. We'll get to them here. Let's keep it going here. Greg, hit us with another game.
I think a really interesting game for tonight is Ole Miss versus Bradley. You take a look at, I really don't have a play either way in this game, but Ole Miss started out as a 6-point favorite. This line has moved to 7.5 or 8, depending on where you look for this one. But Ole Miss is a team that, let's face it, they've been the victims of a little bit of bad luck and just bad starts. I still remember they were down double digits in the first half against Louisiana Lafayette. They got down 20 against South Dakota State. They managed to come all the way back against Louisiana Lafayette and win. Against South Dakota State, they forced overtime but still got the loss. They fell down by quite a few points against Illinois State. They took the loss in that one, but they were able to force overtime after being down double digits again. If you're looking for something in this game, I would think Bradley in the first half might actually be a really good play just because we're seeing Ole Miss coming out and they're just putting together bad first half after bad first half and then storming back in the second half.
Yeah, that's interesting because I actually had Ole Miss in their last game against Corpus Christi, and I really liked the spot for them there just because, if you read Andy Kennedy, I mean, he called them a disaster and that they weren't playing well. And, I am concerned that maybe that will carry over to this game. I mean, this is another game where, it's interesting styles here. You have, Bradley, who generally plays pretty slow. They like to slow it down, but they're on the road against an Ole Miss team that has a 4-guard lineup that's really good, that can shoot the lights out. I I'm interested in Ole Miss here, but it's not a big interest here. I'm just concerned that they're still at that point where they're on that high from the last game they played, where it's we got to start playing better here. We got to go into the Christmas break on fire here. I'm not in love with it, but you're saying you like Bradley first half. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I also saw Bradley play against Vermont in the first half of their game in a tournament a couple weeks ago as well. Bradley's been a very good first half team. Ole Miss has been a very bad first half team. I don't really have a play either way in the game, but I think that is in regards to the first half, Bradley might be worth a look.
Yeah, no, I hear on that. I guess I'm just kind of the one time I've backed Bradley this year, I took them against San Diego State, and they just came out just so poor in that game. They went down like 13-2 and just never were able to come back. But no, they've had definitely a turnaround season for sure. Greg looks like NASCAR driver Brad Keselowski. I don't disagree with that. That's actually a good call by you, Best Gambler. So, Greg, do you think you look like Brad Keselowski at all?
Can't disagree.
You and Greg should have your own show together. Well, thanks, Russell, and maybe we will someday. Greg has great insight. Yes, he does. Good call. Bradley thrives on D. I would think Ole Miss can muscle them out of the full game, but I like the first half. Yeah, I don't have one way either or on it. Ole Miss is an interesting team, but they have been poor at times this year, so it wouldn't surprise me either way. Florida Gulf Coast, Wichita. Talked about this one on the show earlier with our friend Donnie Rightside. This is an interesting game because FGCU has that great reputation, Dunk City. They're, this and that, this and that, this and that. But you're getting a Wichita team right now that's pretty pissed off, I feel like. And they have not played well. They were awful in that game against Oklahoma. Their defense has not been good. And I'd have to imagine the week at practice was not good. Especially for the players here. I'd imagine it was a tough practice. They haven't played well. But you look at FGCU, you're not exactly getting them at a good time either. They're off two horrible losses to FIU and Oral Roberts. Lipscomb's actually looked a lot better than FGCU over the season so far. Greg, first of all, have you seen FGCU play, and what are your thoughts on them right now?
I have seen FGCU, and they've been hit or miss because they played 2 games against UT Arlington. They split those 2 games, and I believe that they actually won the one that was at UT Arlington. So I thought that was really interesting. But then you saw that game against Oral Roberts a couple nights ago, and they looked awful. They were just completely creamed in that game. I think they lost by 19 or 20 points, and this is an FGCU team that has a very good guard in Brandon Goodwin, but it feels like sometimes they just go to the well a little bit too much with them. This is a really interesting call because Wichita State, they were trailing at the half against Arkansas State. I took Arkansas State plus a 30, one of the easiest covers I've had all year long. I mean, I was just there like, wow, I didn't think it would be this easy, but really don't have a play either way in this game. I think the line, which is right around 16, 17, I think it's very accurate on this one.
Yeah, and I've often referenced the success that Wichita State has at home. Against the numbers, especially laying big numbers, 12.5 or more, they're 17-6 over the last 23. They really can come at you hard. I remember a game earlier this year against Charleston. Charleston at that point was fully healthy. They'd played good defense, and they ran them out of the gym, Wichita. They're getting Marcus McDuffie back tonight, which is a huge help. He's going to give them considerable minutes. It's just a concern right now with Wichita is, can they play good enough defense to get a little bit of an advantage in this game? Florida Gulf Coast is a good team, but you're getting them at a bad time. You did mention that they beat Arkansas State, but that wasn't easy either. Gave up 80 points in that game. It's hard right now, and from a wagering standpoint, that's the reason I'm going to stay off this game. I think this is a Wichita line. I think this is a Wichita win, and I think it's a comfortable win. But it's hard right now to lay points and big amounts of points right now with Wichita until they get that defense figured out. Will McDuffie come in and maybe disrupt the rhythm a little bit? I don't know. And that's not something I'm willing to put my money in the hands of. Right now, this is a great game to watch because Florida Gulf Coast is a good basketball team. They are. I know they've been beleaguered lately, but you mentioned Goodwin. He's a fantastic guard, and Travius Simmons, Michael Gilmore, Zach Johnson, Christian Terrell. They have a good basketball team. But this is a tall order here. But for Wichita, it is too, I feel like. Any thoughts on Alabama? Already talked about it. You have to go back, bro, and listen to that one. Charleston, Coastal Carolina. I don't have any opinion on that. Greg, do you? Anything on Charleston, Coastal?
I would probably lean towards Charleston in this one, but it's a tough call. It's a very small number in this game. I think that Charleston is finally getting its sea legs back under them because I know they've been without one of their top players this year. So that's why Charleston has been winning a lot of games, but they really haven't been covering a lot. I think the fact that it is such a small number makes me lean towards Charleston, but I don't have it as a play.
Yeah, I mean, my advice there may be under. I mean, Charleston's always very good defensively. Cliff Ellis at Coastal Carolina, he's going to throw out those zones that he runs. They're a pretty efficient offense, Coastal, but tonight it might prove difficult. 139 seems a tad bit high. I thought that would be 134, 135. 139.5 might be a little too high there, frankly, as I look at it. Josh Allen has the physical tools. Good for him. Take that, though, to the college football chat. We're trying to keep this to college hoops. But, yes, he definitely has the physical tools to go to the NFL. I like him a lot. He's just had a lack of weapons this year. I have a game left, and you have a game left. Let me go through mine here. And this is a game that I am considering adding late night, 11 p.m. I look at this game for Montana in Seattle to face Washington, and I'm not really thinking that it's going to end well for Montana. The key to Mike Hopkins and beating Washington is, can you go in there and shoot over that zone? Because that 2-3 zone, they're continuing to perfect. They're continuing to try to get right. And I'm a fan of Washington. I like this team. They have some really good athletes. David Chris, Thibault, all sorts of players that have been able to play well this year. They've had some really good games. That game against Providence earlier the year was impressive, but they're taking care of business. They're beating teams they need to, and they're getting a tough Montana team in here. The problem tonight is, Montana shoots 28% from three. They're only shooting 39.3% on the road, and they've struggled on the road. 2-4 this year against the spread, and that 29% or 28% is 338th in the country shooting the three ball. This just doesn't look like a particularly good matchup for the Grizzlies here on the road out at Montana or out at Washington. I'm considering laying the 4.5 for Washington here. Any thoughts, Greg, on that?
I have Washington as a lean, and I'm considering putting it as a play as well for the reasons that you mentioned. Because Montana, I think that they had that win against Pittsburgh earlier this year, but past that, what have they really done? This is a team that was supposed to have Donovan Dorsey, who ironically used to go to Washington, but he's out for the year, so that has been a big blow for Montana. And you just take a look at this team. You don't know what you're going to get from night to night, because I remember when they were playing against Oral Roberts a couple weeks ago, it looked like they had that game in hand. Oral Roberts makes a big rally, and I believe they lose by either a couple points, and it might have even went to overtime as well. So Montana, even when they do get a lead, not very good at closing. And you just take a look at the three-point shooting. It's atrocious right now. Thomas DeKeer doing all he can with the program, but I think this is a very good spot for Washington.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you said here. It's just a bad matchup for them. And, Washington has so many players. Noah Dickerson's a freak. He's a freak athlete, man. He's had some great games this year. They're a pretty deep team as well. I think it's a pretty solid number here. And if you really look at it, it's just a bad matchup for Montana. Greg, hit us with your last game. An interesting game. UNLV, Northern Colorado. I really like Jeff Linder's group. Do they have enough to hang with UNLV?
I really actually like UNLV in this spot. Even though it is a big number, UNLV has been covering all these big numbers day in and day out this year. And I remember against Florida A&M, Southern Utah, list goes on and on. UNLV has been covering these numbers. And just at home, it feels like UNLV has one of the best home court advantages in the nation. You take a look at the big men down low for UNLV, Houston and company. They're all just doing an incredible job. The front court or the back court has been good as well. Johnson is one of the top assist players in the nation. Yeah. He's contributing to everyone. I actually like UNLV in this spot, though I will say Northern Colorado, a much improved team. You mentioned Jeff Linder. I actually think he's doing a fantastic job with this program as well. But I think it's just a bad spot for Northern Colorado. They just don't have enough to keep up with this team physically.
Yeah, it's interesting. You make that point about Jordan Johnson. One of the better transfers you're going to see. I think he, from Milwaukee, what a great get for Marvin or for Marvin Menzies there. Yeah, he's great. with the basketball in his hands. Javon Mooring's a great player, but Houston and McCoy, Houston made some mistakes in that Pacific game. I think has Better's a little annoyed, but you look at top 10 rebounders in the country, those two are both in the top 10. Northern Colorado, again, a very honorable group this year, a very solid group. I mean, they just went into Laramie and won. That's impressive. But we have to point out Wyoming has had some trouble lately. They are not playing particularly good basketball. It was a good altitude advantage they didn't really have in that game. They're an honorable team, Northern Colorado. Went on the road and beat South Dakota, who's a good team. Beat some other teams as well. But this is a different. This is a little bit different kind of team here. I got to agree with you. I'm big on UNLV long term. I think they're a really good basketball team, and they're going to make some noise long term. Artez Jackson, we already talked about that game. Central Michigan, we both agree that we like that. A lot of talk on the chat about Villanova, who the number one team in the country. They've been off off their feet for about 9 days. Last game they played, a game that I was in attendance for, Villanova Temple up at Leah Course in North Philadelphia. They've been off since then and really needed a little bit of time to get their legs back and really kind of take on the conference play here. But kind of a random game against Hofstra, if you remember. This is Jay Wright's old stomping grounds. Used to coach at Hofstra. Has really got where he got his start. And I think a lot of people will point out that, is this one of those games where Jay decides, I'm going to take the foot off the gas? Because I got to tell you, I'm not looking to step in front of the Villanova Wildcats at any level. They've hammered teams. They've hammered good teams. I mean, St. Joe's isn't a bad basketball team. They beat them by 41, and they were down in that game in the first half. They crushed Gonzaga, crushed Temple, crushed Western Kentucky. This is a good team. What do you think here? Is he going to lay the foot off the gas? Because he's going to have the ability, Jay Wright, in this team. There shouldn't be any reason they're not up big in this game. Hofstra is an up-tempo team. They're going to be poor defense in this game. What do you think is going to happen? Will he let his foot off the gas?
This is pretty much a name your number game for Villanova. This is one that I'm not going to bet either way. If I were to bet, I'd probably lay the points with Villanova because of the reasons you said. They just completely killed St. Joe's in that game. I mean, they were on the road. They win that game by 41. Then they go to Madison Square Garden. They take down Gonzaga. This team looks like they've got all the elements right now. I mean, Jalen Brunson just playing incredible at the guard spot. Spellman down low has been doing good. Dante DiVincenzo has really come into his own as a junior this year. Villanova has all the tools to be a Final Four team. I am not going to step in front of Villanova at this point. If I were to play it, I would lay the points with Villanova. But the question is, with 5 minutes to go, does Jay Wright decide to pull all of his starters? That's something I don't want to bet on or against.
It's interesting. This line opened 22.5. It's down at 20.5. Bettors are in the belief that he will do that. I got to be real. I don't know that it's even going to matter. They might be up 30 in this one. They're a tremendously good defense team. I've seen them, the eye test. I was 9 rows away. This team is extremely good. I mean, Jalen Brunson, if not for Trae Young and his unbelievable season, Jalen Brunson's the best player best guard in the country, surely. I mean, he's amazing. And Spellman's been a different animal. Eric Paschal, DiVincenzo. They just have so many options. Bridges. They're well coached. But again, if they're up 25 in this game, you're going to be around the number. But Hofstra's bad. I'm not betting on Hofstra. If I don't want to bet Villanova, I'm not betting on it. There's a guy that continues to ask about San Francisco Duquesne. Any opinion on that, Greg? I don't have any on it.
I'm going to pull up the number right now since I know that this has been moving around a little bit. Opened up with San Francisco -3. It's now -5. If I were to pick a side, I'd probably pick Duquesne just because you're getting points. I feel like this is a toss-up game. Duquesne plays some pretty good defense. It seems like they're starting to turn that program around, though it's going to be a couple years. I know that Duquesne has a first-year head coach. San Francisco has been very up and down all year long. I remember they really put it on Eastern Washington in the first half of their game, but they've also had some bad losses as well. This is a stay away for me, but if I were to pick it, give me the points.
Yeah, this one's out in Vegas, so a bit of a long trip here for the Dukes out of Pittsburgh, and they're off of a close game against the Lamar Cardinals. But no, I mean they have Dan Brunt's doing his thing there. He'll get that going there in Pittsburgh. Let's maybe go through one or two more here, and then we'll look to wrap it up. St. Bonaventure Syracuse is an interesting game. Public likes the Cuse here, but a Carrier Dome that will probably be a little a little quieter tonight. Not the students are out. It's Christmas weekend. I'm a big fan of St. Bonaventure. Jalen Adams and Mobley are great. Question is, can they shoot up and over the zone? I think they can. I've looked good from three this year. They get to the foul line. When they do get to the foul line, they make their free throws. I kind of like the over here, honestly. I think Bonaventure will be able to score some points in this game. Syracuse shouldn't have any problem scoring either. I mean, Bonaventure fouls 21 times a game. That's a lot when you're putting them on the line. And Syracuse does have a big rebounding advantage in this game. I kind of think the total's a little bit low here. I think this game's played close to 70-ish. I think 135 is a little low. Any thoughts on the big one up in the Carrier Dome tonight?
Yeah, I know that the under was hitting a lot in Syracuse's first couple games of the year. It's been trending a little bit more to the over now. And you mentioned St. Bonaventure has their big two in Adams and Mobley, but at the same time, they don't have a whole lot of scoring outside of those two, which has me a little bit concerned because if one of those guys gets into foul trouble or one of those guys is having a tough night, it could be a double-digit win for Syracuse. I actually lean towards Syracuse a little bit. I was laying 5.5 with this. I know that it's now 6 or 6.5 in most spots, so that does affect it a little bit. So if you're going to make a bet, I would say make a bet on a different game. But if you have to bet this game, you have a parlay, something like that, I would lean towards Syracuse, and I would also lean towards the over.
Yeah, no, I definitely lean over myself there. What else do we have here as far as intriguing games? There are a lot of intriguing ones tonight. Big total in William and Mary TCU. William and Mary is dreadful on defense, just dreadful. TCU should have no problem there. Xavier Northern Iowa, an interesting game. There's just something about laying points in Cedar Rapids that I'm not really keen on doing. I felt like when they hosted UNLV, I thought that was a real trap. I was able to get a cover with Texas Arlington against Northern Iowa, but I'm not crazy laying points right now with a Xavier team that's a little hobbled right now. I mean, J.P. McCura's injured. Looks like he's going to play, though, tonight. They're going to get their big boys back, but this Northern Iowa team every year is well coached. They play great defense. I don't like to bet against them at home. Just don't.
Yeah, and you just don't know what's going to happen with Xavier because they were without like half their lineup against Marshall, which is why Marshall was able to make that huge second half run. They were able to lose by only 4 points in an 81-77 game because J.P. McCura was dealing with blurred vision. I know that one of their other guys was out as well, so that makes this line very interesting. If I were to pick a side, I'd probably still go with Xavier just because of the talent at -6, but man, this is one I want no part of.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Greg, any other games that you have your eye on that you want to get into here that you're just raring to go on?
There's nothing that's really too huge. I think that Akron has a decent chance to cover against USC because I just think that USC is going to be resting a lot of their guys until the, and I quote, bigger games of this Hawaii tournament. So I think that plus 14.5 might be decent with Akron. I didn't give it as a play, and quite frankly, I didn't give it as a lean as well, but I think that there's a decent chance if you're looking for some late night action, Akron could be worth a look. Davidson versus New Mexico State is also a really interesting one because we've seen New Mexico State be very tough at home. They're playing against a Davidson squad that has been up and down this year. They got that miraculous cover against North Carolina, which I was on North Carolina on and took a bad beat there, but Davidson, they had believe like a 20-point loss against Virginia last week, but they do have Peyton Aldrich, who's one of the most explosive players in the country. I think that New Mexico State might be able to get the outright win in this one. Currently, I'm seeing Davidson -1.5 in most spots, so that'd be a little bit of a lead of my own. And then the ultimate toss-up, North Dakota State versus UTEP. UTEP is a team that they've been up and down this year. Ever since Tim Floyd left the program, they actually seem to be getting better. I still remember the tough loss that they took in their game against Boise State, in which Boise State just absolutely had a huge comeback in that one. Boise State had that miraculous and one at the gun to be able to get that win. Meanwhile, you take a look at North Dakota State. They played Arizona tough for about a half. They played against USC. They had a lead in the first half of that one. I think that's a game that I would certainly stay away from, but I think the total of 135.5 seems a little bit low.
Yeah, you mentioned Davidson, New Mexico State. Interesting game there. Davidson obviously always a great shooting team under Bob McKillop. I'm a big fan of this New Mexico State team. I thought bringing in Zach Lofton was a great signing by them, getting him in over from Texas Southern. Eli Chua and Sidney and Deere, Jamario Jones. I like them. Problem is, it's out in Hawaii, and you're taking away that home court advantage that New Mexico State would have. Grand Canyon's had those situations where they've had to play at neutral locations, and I think they would have got on a lot better at home. So yeah, that's an interesting game for sure. There's a comment here. Steve Merrill just tweeted that the public is backing Washington, but the sharp money's on Montana. Well, Mr. Gogser, as you know, I care about as much as what the sharps are on as I care about what's happening in Azerbaijan right now. I just don't give two shits about that, frankly. I think Greg and I are just as sharp as any of those guys. So I'll be confident in the plays that I make. You make the point, though. Public. I look at this game and I don't see a reason to back Montana. I just don't. Schematically, I don't think it's going to work for them in this one. And hey, if it loses, it loses. But I think I'm getting my money in right with the play that I made here on Washington, and I'm confident with that. Greg, you're around the Sharks. You're around the Shark public.
Does not mean correct money either. So. I mean, so many times you see the sharps on this team, and they're obviously correct a lot of the time, but you see a lot of times where the sharp money is on this team, and then they get blown out by 25, and you're like, why in the heck did I just do that? So sharp money doesn't always mean correct money.
Yeah, and sharp money also doesn't always mean, maybe it's, maybe again. Let me ask you, Greg. I mean, and again, if you don't want to answer, I get it, but you're at the South Point often. I mean, these sharps that you hear about. I mean. How long do we see them bet before we consider them sharp? Is a sharp someone that wins for a couple years straight? I mean, what is considered a sharp? Because I don't really – I think I'm just as sharp as anyone, as far as the games that I'm getting my money in on and stuff that I know. Explain that to people that might not know what that is.
That's really interesting because they really don't tell us what sharp means either. I mean, I think that it's just people that they trust. They see someone maybe getting on a hot streak or something like that. I don't think it's a set time, but it's just people that the bookmakers grow to respect over the years because I think it just varies from person to person to person. And it's one of those things where the definition of a sharp versus a square, it feels like it's actually much more minimal than it has been in past years because I feel like 10 years ago it was so much easier to bet college basketball than it is now. The bookmakers are doing such a better job of putting out such more tight lines that typically actually are close. So I think that the definition is very, very blurred, and I think it's just based on opinion and opinion only.
I've said it time and time again. I think it's a total sham. I think that sharp stuff, I think it's a total sham. I don't think it means anything. I think it's constantly put out there to have people bet certain ways and then not bet certain ways. But I got to tell you, you work for some really good people out there. What you're doing at VSIN, a lot of great things there. Jimmy Vaccaro, I don't like a lot of bookmakers, but he's a guy that I think anyone has to respect. He's been in the business for so long. Vinny Maliulo, all those guys do a real nice job. VSIN's done a nice job, and you guys should be proud of what you're doing out there for sure. Greg, before we go, let's let you plug some things. Where can we find you and recap some of the picks you're on tonight?
Perfect. I'm obviously working for VSIN. You can follow me on Twitter at @GUnit_81. Put out picks every single day for college basketball. You can also catch me every Tuesday on VSIN at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific. I'm always going through giving you college basketball plays, telling you what I like, what I'm seeing, things like that. I'm on with Ron Flatter and Amal Shah, two of the best in the business. And then some of the plays that I'm on tonight, we were talking about them earlier. I really like Central Michigan, I should say, -10 against SIU Edwardsville. SIU Edwardsville is just dreadful, so I took them. I think that Bradley versus Ole Miss, Bradley might be a look for the first half, laying off the total game, just because I have seen Ole Miss come out flat in so many games, and Bradley has come out sharp in so many others. And then another game that I'm looking at is Middle Tennessee laying the points against Princeton. I think that could be a good play. And I'm laying the points with UNLV tonight.
Like it. Like all those plays a lot. You mentioned Ron Flatter, the Flatter man. He's another good guy as well. Great stuff, Greg, as always. By the way, before we let you go, G Unit, what's up with that? Obviously your first initial, but were you a Lloyd Banks and Tony Ayo fan, or what's up with the name?
That was actually the name the nickname I was given back when I was a college bowler. They used to call me the G Unit when I bowled for UW Oshkosh. So a little bit of obscurity there, but it just stuck.
How about that? Shout out to Oshkosh, Winnebago County, Wisconsin. Good stuff. The pride of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, the great Greg Peterson. Great stuff as always, Greg. Hopefully we can talk to you again real soon.
Certainly. Anytime you need me, let me know. Love joining you today.
Thanks, buddy. See you later.
Thank you.
Greg Peterson, everybody. Great guy. Great info. Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't respect really anyone in this business. Donnie, guys like Greg, Ian Cameron, Gabe. There's a lot of good guys. Some of the Dave Koken, people like that. But I mean, there are not a lot of people that can do what Greg just did and what I just did. So, great guy, Greg. Great information, and he brought it tonight. Really good stuff. I definitely like his plays. I mean, I was definitely into CMU. I bet that one at 10.5 as well. Many of you know I'm a big UNLV guy. I really like that. The only concern I have there with Northern Colorado is just kind of the Linder effect and them, but they're off a tough game against Wyoming. Now you got to head into Vegas to play the Rebels. That's a tough one. But to me, the play of the day tonight, guys, is Towson. I think they're the better team than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's off that win. Towson's off a loss. They're just a better overall team, and I like the rebounding edge. I like that Luther's out. I just think overall it's a really good play. Let's stay on we'll do 5 more minutes here. No problem, Norman Nation. Yeah, we've been trying to get him in on some games here. Yep, I like Washington as well. That's going to be a game that I'm going to maybe move on here. Yeah, I mean, got to make him feel good, But yeah, I didn't even know where Oshkosh was. I knew it was in Wisconsin. I knew it was in that county, but I didn't know much about it. I didn't even know they had a Wisconsin campus there. So you learn something new every day. How about that? Couple scores from earlier. Temple goes down to Georgia. A horrific shooting day for Temple. I've said it before. It's time for Fran Dunphy to move on. I think he's old and worn out. It's time to bring someone else in here. Feel free, guys. We'll stay on 5 more minutes or so. Send in any questions you might have on anything. Doesn't have to be college hoops. How about that Arsenal game today? Great game. The fact that I lost Liverpool is a little amazing. I couldn't believe it. You go up 2-0. Arsenal looked just dreadful. But unfortunately, the problem that we have with Liverpool is they can't defend. I mean, that's how it goes with them. Mignolet is a mess. It was just dreadful defending. No, I have no opinion on Yale. Texas State, no opinion. Texas State can't score, so I have no opinion there. Rice is bad. I don't even – Vanderbilt's playing Alcorn State, so there's no line, so I'm not in on that one. Miami, Florida, Hawaii. Nah, no opinion really. Yeah, we'll go one more. Murray State, Detroit, over. College of Charleston, already talked about it. You'll have to go back. I think we both agreed maybe the under. Central Michigan's down 27-7 at half. They're going to need a big comeback here. A late touchdown by Josh Allen, who has had a pretty good first half. If I'm seeing here myself, really impressive. 8 for 13, 122 yards and 3 touchdowns. Not a lot of yards, but he's doing the big thing tonight. Other than that, guys, that's going to be it for tonight. I got to rest myself here. I got to be on tonight with Gabe Morency. I'll be on there about, 10:30 or so. I'll be on tomorrow at 11 a.m. with Ian Cameron. We'll be discussing the Saturday college hoops card. And I'll be on Saturday at noon doing bowl games again. Other than that, I won't be on the rest of the weekend. I won't be on Saturday night. We won't be on Sunday. And we will not be on Monday. I think we have some bowl stuff we're doing, but other than that, we're not on. Yeah, Robert, I already covered it, Robert, for the 3rd time. You're going to have to listen back to the show. Sorry. I'm not going over that again. We've talked about it several times, to be quite frank. Thanks, David. Thanks, 2 Chains. You better be live betting on the Warriors game. We'll see. I mean, let's take a look at NBA actually as we try to find another banger. I gave out the Knicks last night. That one. Looking to give out the Bucks the other night. Let's see if we can find a little banger tonight on the NBA card. No need to send in any games. I'm not covering individual games. This is all just about what I'm looking for here. All right. There's some interesting ones tonight. All right. I'm looking at Denver and the Nets. I'm going with those. Denver and the Nets. Denver and the Nets. I like them. I like both of them. Denver Nuggets -1. Nets +5. Those are your 2 plays. NBA tonight. Nets. Nuggets. Net. I'm going to put them in the chat here. Love it. I think the Lakers can keep the game within 10. All right. I actually don't. I think the Warriors are going to pound the Lakers tonight. Draymond's back. Public loves the Lakers. Yeah, I'm on the Warriors, pal. I got to be honest. I actually might even add that one. Fuck it. I'm on that too. Warriors -11. 3 plays tonight. Nuggets -1, Nuggets +5, Warriors -11. I love it. Love it. Love it. Someone likes the Bucks tonight. I don't have much in that one. Yeah, listen, Corey, I mean, if you can explain why 65% of the public's on the side and 96% of the money's on the Lakers, but the Warriors are going up, let me know. Yeah, we will see tonight. So good luck with that. But you know I like the Lakers. Everyone knows I like the Lakers, but not in this spot. Draymond's back. Everybody's back. The only person back is that out's back is Stephen Curry. So yeah, I'm not parlaying them. They're all separate plays, but we're gonna go Warriors 11, Nuggets -1, and Nets +5. Everyone have a great night. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Thanks to Greg Peterson from VSIN. Follow him on Twitter, which I've tweeted out. Yeah, that's it. I don't have anything on Ravens Colts. You can listen to Gabe. I'm sure he'll break that down tonight. Everyone have a great night. Appreciate you tuning in tonight. I'll be back tomorrow. Make sure you listen in on SBR Forum with Ian Cameron at 11 a.m. Going over the college hoops card. Enjoy your Friday. Be safe. I got to get a haircut tonight. I can't fucking wait. 8:30. I'm looking, my barber wasn't around last week. My hair's long. I got to get it cut. I can't wait. I'm pumped up for that. So everyone have a great night. Be well, and I'll see you tonight with Gabe probably about 10:30. Bye-bye.